It's a little too quiet. It's the Ferndale Library Podcast, and it's brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. Today on the podcast, I have author Kayla Ray Whitaker, who's coming to us from Kentucky, where her book is set. Her latest is Returns and Exchanges. Kayla, this is her second novel following this really well-reviewed and one of my favorite books from 2017, The Animators, that was named Best Book by Entertainment Weekly, NPR, Kirkus, and Bookpage. Now her second novel, Returns and Exchanges, is out today. It's out here at the end of May. This is a sweeping novel of a family based in Kentucky. And as we talk to Kayla, who is also an English teacher, there is a bit of like Shakespearean tragedy, writ large 80s kind of like post-Reagan recession American dream kind of energy. There is, I guess you would call it, indeed, a tragicomic tour de force about love and marriage, parents and children, and the perils of mixing family with business. Perfectly put. And this is a podcast that winds up turning into a bit of a nostalgia run for, we are myself and Kayla, elder millennials. We go back into the early 80s. There is the Baker Taylor's discount store, and we have Fran and Fred, the married couple, running the store, and we have their 4 children. We have Bertie, Benny, Sam, and Josiah. And we dive into whatever kind of surreal experience it would be if your family business was actually running a department store. We also touch on, in the novel, what it's like for Fred and Fran, who are kind of in the boomer generation, actually being able to eventually provide financial stability that their own parents could have only dreamed of for their 4 children. But as the business changes at a breakneck speed, each member of the family is struggling to keep up in their own way. Money transforms Fred. Josiah wants nothing to do with the family business. Sam is having struggles of his own, and Benny and Bertie are growing up with a fraction of the parenting that their older brothers had. But then we also get to meet Wendy, a cashier at Baker Taylor's, who becomes an element in Fran's life. And so we see these 2 matriarch-patriarch characters making decisions that are perhaps a little risky, perhaps a little self-destructive, perhaps a little self-centered, or, well, that's just good literature. You're going to see these characters making a lot of choices along the way and getting a little bit messy with their own interpersonal relationships within each other. Let's talk about running a store. Let's talk about what success really looks like. Is it financial or is it familial? It's Returns and Exchanges with Kayla Ray Whitaker. The book's out now, her second book following The Animators. Here is our chat.
Okay. Hi, are you Jeff?
I'm Jeff. Hello.
Hey, Jeff. Kayla, nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Wouldn't it be great if we lived in the 1980s and we didn't rely on technology anymore? My goodness.
I've always wanted another rotary phone. Yeah, we had one until I was probably in late middle school, and it hung on the wall. I just loved it.
Oh,
so
amazing.
Yeah.
So good to see you. Thank you for this opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. This is great.
Congrats on the new book.
Oh, thanks.
Returns and Exchanges.
Yeah.
Officially out very, very soon. Oh my gosh, the 19th.
Yep, next Tuesday, that's our book launch. So we'll be doing something up here in New York and then actually something in Lexington, Kentucky, where the book is set. So
Great.
Yeah.
I'll just come out and say that I was a huge fan, and still am to this day, of The Animators.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Read it.
I've got my, this is my Sharon and Mel wall. So this is all fan art that folks sent me after reading the book. So it's mostly just, Sharon and Mel. They watched me write the new one.
Wow. Oh, what was that experience like? What was the experience like to receive fan art too?
It's very humbling. I love it. Yeah. So I know how much time it takes to make something that you care about. And so the fact that people felt compelled to put Sharon and Mel, their own versions of it, on the page is really meaningful. So much so that I, printed them, framed them, and I have them up on my wall.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I probably came close to doing the same thing. I read that book twice, and for some reason I can't put my fingers on, I was obsessed with those characters. And I think that speaks to, because it certainly speaks to what's going on in Returns and Exchanges. You seem to have a real knack, or at least it seems that you really enjoy and thrive in character. You know what I was going to say? There's this thing, people talk about character development, or they talk about an arc of a character, but I think one of your strengths, and this isn't really a question, but maybe you can speak to it, is like character establishment. It's almost like this, maybe it's some sort of Wes Andersonian thing where the second I meet a character in one of your books, I feel like I know them in one paragraph. And I don't know how you do that.
No, that's a really great question, and you're absolutely right. Actually, the Wes Anderson comp feels pretty close to what I try to do on the page, even down to like the color scheme of Sharon and Mel's apartment, or the color scheme of Baker Taylor's in the book, which is a very Andersonian thing.
Oh, sure.
It's my favorite part of writing. And it is one of my strengths. I've been doing this long enough now to know that that's something I'm good at. And that's something that things like plot and momentum and structure take a little bit more effort for me, because I start character first. So just with character insecurities, character desires, right down to what kind of sneakers is the character wearing? So the things that they carry around with them in their bag. So it's the part of fiction I have the most fun with, which I guess it shows, right?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. Where did the characters of the animators come from? Where did that story first come from before I get into Returns and Exchanges?
Oh, sure. So I think with Sharon and Mel, I wanted to write about a friendship. I think we write books that we want to read ourselves, or at least I do. And so that kind of intense partnership between two women, and two women who constantly challenge each other to the point of, they're friends, but there's also
right. The
resentment in that relationship kind of tells its own story. And so I think it kind of came from that. So yeah, it was, I'm always sad when I finish writing a book because I miss the characters. And I missed Sharon and Mel pretty intensely after I stopped drafting the animators. So I think the first time I wrote about Sharon and Mel, they were arguing.
Indeed, and obviously a lot of that is going to carry over to Returns and Exchanges. There's a family dynamic, and this gets to be a bigger book, but you also never shy away from letting your characters or their relationships get messy. And you don't know who you're rooting for or who you have sympathies for, and then you get, it must be, that's interesting that you say, like, you want to write something you want to read, but there's got to be something involved in the emotional bond that you start to develop with your characters too. I imagine when you get 75% into a new work, you're like, oh man, I did, or is it one of those cases where you even surprise yourself, like, oh, I did not see this character going down this road, but here we are.
Yeah. I think in the best cases, it's a little of both. The character does something to just completely upend the story, and it feels like a total shock, but it also feels perfect for their character trajectory. And I think with Returns and Exchanges, that happened with Birdie. So her perspective, that was the part of the book that I wrote last. And I don't want to give any spoilers for folks who haven't read it, but what she does to kind of bring that plot turn to the book about 3/4 of the way through, it took me by surprise, but it was also like, well, no, that's not too surprising. She was raised by her mother.
Sure.
She was raised by her older brothers and her father as well. And so for a person who came out of this little family community, no, that's exactly what she would do. And I wrote that part of the book so fast.
Sure.
It surfaced so quickly, and that's it was nice. It was a lot of fun writing that chapter.
Talk about, I certainly want to hear where the idea for Returns and Exchanges came from. You went from the world of professional animation, and that was amazing, from a book that also delves into family, but is this kind of road trip book. But now you're taking us into a toy store. You're taking us back in time to the 80s. You're taking us, where did this come from? Where did Fred and Fran come from? How did this story come to you? What inspired it? That's the big question.
It's funny because, sorry about that. That was my cat.
Oh, barely heard it, but the cat is welcome, whatever their name is.
You'll probably, Linus will probably pop up at some point. Yeah. It's a funny thing. The way that I frame stores like Baker Taylor's, and you're in Michigan, right?
Yes, we're just north of Detroit.
Oh, nice. Okay. So it's in the Southeast, we had stores like Maloney's and Hills department store. Was Hills up in Michigan? Were they Rust Belt? I can't remember.
No, we were more like Hudson's and stuff like that, Sears.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. The way that I frame this for people who were born after the year 2000 is, okay, imagine a time when every geographic region of the U.S. kind of had their own mom and pop Target.
Sure.
So yeah, it makes sense that the Detroit metro area would kind of have its own. So we had our own too in the Southeast. And I have this really early memory of sitting outside of a Hills department store, and it was actually in Lexington, with my grandmother, who was like chain smoking and talking to me. And so I put this at age 3 or age 4, which would have made it like 1987 or 88. And so that's always been kind of the kids call it a core memory, right? That's always been one of my core memories, is going into Hills and being excited by the toy section. And that was kind of their tagline around the holidays. Hills is where the toys are.
Nice.
And that was their commercial campaign ran on that. And it's just, I had warm and fuzzy memories for like this retail chain. So that was part of it. And then the other part of it, like the day I started writing Returns and Exchanges, I had just come from shopping at a Sears that was just about to be shuttered.
Oh, sure.
And it was an anchor store to a brick and mortar mall. And this was close to home. This was in, I think, Louisville, Kentucky. And it was so odd. Like there wasn't any Muzak or AM Gold coming from the ceiling speakers. Like all of the fixtures were being taken down off the wall. The merchandise was, just kind of wherever they could put it, and on tabletops and in cardboard boxes. And it was me and a bunch of other people. And we were just kind of going through these goods, and it was close to silent. And it was almost like we all knew that something was dying. And it felt so somber that I couldn't shake it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I went home that night, and it was still on my mind. And I had just published The Animators the year before. And so I knew a little something about what it felt like to make something that you love and then to let it out into the world. And whatever happened to it thereafter, it's not up to you. It's disconnected from you. You have very limited control. And I just imagined, what would it feel like to have this store that was closing be your family business, and to be your child in a way, and to have that limited control, but also to watch it being stripped for parts.
Sure.
Yeah. So I couldn't stop thinking about it.
I see a through line there, because with the animators, there is a lot around like the premiering a film they're working on and the suspense around that and putting that into the world. So that could be art, and then this is store, but like these things we hold close to our hearts and the kind of stress that they might bring us, the stress they put onto the relationships.
It's intense.
This is also like literally also just a bigger book. It's like maybe 100 pages longer, 50, 80. I didn't do the math, but spanning decades. We've got 6 or more principal characters instead of kind of the more concentrated 2. What was that experience like for you? And how did you chart it out, I guess, like compared to animators?
Yeah, my goal for my next book, I'm trying to write something shorter,
Okay.
just to see if I can do it. So there were 9 years between the animators and returns and exchanges. And this book took on a lot of different shapes. So I'm really fond of family epics.
Yeah.
Like I love East of Eden.
I was just about to say that. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Amazing book.
Yeah.
Amazing book. Yeah. And the way that it explores sibling dynamics, like that's close to my heart. 1,000 Acres, Commonwealth. In fact, it's my day job is I'm a high school English teacher.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. So I've got 2 jobs. That's my other one. And my favorite thing to teach is King Lear. I teach it to my AP Lit class every year. And it's family dynamics, like sibling dynamics. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and then the parents, and then what happens, oh man. Okay.
Yeah, power structure, how it ties in with money and inheritance. It's just all of these things were kind of on my mind as I was writing this book. Wow. And we took it through more than a few significant drafts. And I know in a couple of versions, it was just Fran and Wendy, and it was their points of view. I missed having Wendy's point of view in the final version, but I was able to write her with even more depth, I think, because I had been kind of inhabiting her brain for a while. So it was good work. It was time well spent. But I know that the one very early version of the book that I wrote, that was maybe in 2019, that had all the kids.
Oh, okay.
And it was, yeah. And there were a lot of interesting things that were cut. Like in that particular version, I think Benny and Bertie as adults, they branch off and they start their own survivalist general store. Like societal collapse, it's closer than you think. So, hey, let's open like a survivalist Baker Taylor's.
Wow.
One thing that I wanted to do, I wanted to make it shorter, and it just didn't happen. You're right. It's a big, beefy book. And I do worry that it makes it a little, I don't know, maybe a harder sell to folks.
No. East of Eden's big. Come on, that's how it works.
That's true. Yeah. And
there are.
I love big books.
There is that population out there. My cousin won't read anything that's less than 600. So no, that's not true. That's not true. Less than 400, sure. So
that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, like her favorite book in high school was Tale of Two Cities, but like, only because of the sweep and the epicness of it. So some people are attracted to that. Wow, though. That's interesting to hear about the different iterations that these characters are going on. Just tell us more about, Josiah and Sam and Benny and Bertie and where they all came from. And then you mentioned Bertie a lot, but tell us about the brothers.
Okay, yeah, the boys.
Yeah.
So, 4 seemed like the magic number, or I guess I should say 5 technically.
Right.
But yeah, 4 of the kids who get their own perspectives.
Sure.
So I've always been interested in big families where you have these siblings with common experiences and common backstories, but they're so fundamentally different from one another. Mm-hmm. So, and then you have these moments where their reactions or their approach to the world kind of line up. I love that with the Taylor siblings, the fact that they span so many years, like between Josiah and Bertie, I think there's over a decade in terms of age difference. But the way that they approach the world, they've got a lot of their mom in them, for better and for worse. They've got some of their dad in them, and it's the part of themselves that they fear the most. But I think one of the big questions that I had was, okay, so we have this family and it's this rags to riches trajectory, right? They make a bunch of money. The parents, there's a class shift with the Taylors, right?
Hmm.
Josiah and Sam, they remember being working class. They remember like living in a tiny apartment, not having a washer or a dryer. They remember also having their mom around a little bit more, right? And then we have Benny and Bertie who take tennis lessons and go to cotillion, and they grew up as rich kids.
Sure.
Like Benny had the Atari, Benny had the Walkman, right before his friends
Sure.
did.
Sure.
So how does that change their sensibility? And how does that change the way that they approach the world? And I do think it's really funny when Josiah kind of regards his, youngest brother and sister, Benny and Bertie, and thinks, they're such spoiled brats. But Bertie looks at her older brothers and they're like, dude, your mom did everything for you. Like I cook for myself, I shop for myself, and I'm 12 years old. My parents work all the time. I'm kind of self-sufficient. So that shift in perspective was something that I was really drawn to. And also the fact that despite the complications, they love each other, these four kids. They end up being a unit of some sort at the end of the day, that's a nice story to kind of immerse yourself in.
Is there anything in there about, because you and I are both millennials, going on elder millennial at this point, and if you and I spend enough time on social media, there's this fixation about generations, and specifically around like, well, this generation had that, and we had this, but you're talking about gaps of like 4, 6, 8, years. But even in that, there can be so much difference. Like my sister's 8 years older, but it was such a different world, and mom and dad were in different places, so they know a different world. There's that element, but then if you're in high school, like every 4 years, you're seeing a different mini generation. Isn't that wild?
It is wild. Yeah. And I teach kids, and I've been teaching at the high school level for 5.5 years now, almost 6 years. And you're totally right. Yeah. It's different. It's a different world for these kids than it was 6 years ago. So I think one of the great pleasures of getting older is the fact that you can become friends with people who are not necessarily your age. So I always learn a lot from friends of mine who are, right? Yeah. from friends of mine who are millennials, of course, but also like friends of mine who are like 10 to 15 years older than me, who are Gen X. I love hearing about what high school was like for them, what childhood was like for them. So, but I also learn a lot from friends of mine who are in their 20s,
Yeah.
right? And I'm 42, and their education was totally different. The way that they see the world is totally different. And I find that fascinating and educational.
And it like, I don't know what the word is, like interesting, fun, fascinating. It must be to have written these characters and have them develop over the years and change and twist and argue and all that.
Yeah.
Bring us back to the department store and a family centering around a department store. And I just kept thinking like families all around the region who come there are having experiences and memories, and they're Christmas shopping, or they are back to school shopping, and maybe it's mom and a daughter, or maybe it's the family in total, what have you. And they're passing through, this other thing that kids have fascinations with, a feeling of a liminal space. But it's a big thing to be a family business in and of itself, because it's not like, ye old general store, you know what I mean? And I don't know where I'm going with that question, but that felt compelling to me as the reader, just thinking about the world you built.
Yeah. Shopping's an emotional experience.
Yeah.
Right? Have you found that as well? So do you have memories that are tied to a department store or,
Yeah, absolutely.
store?
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. I remember the magic or whatever enchantment of walking into a Sears, and you had to walk through the Sears to get to the grander mall. And when I wanted to get to the mall, I wanted to get to the toy store. So I had to wait for those, requisite 15 minutes of mom browsing in Sears first. And I had to be real patient. So I'll never forget those experiences. But that's what I found so compelling about this family. It's like, whereas we are walking through there for an hour, this is their life. That's heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. So when the kids look at a store, they're always going to think about like blocking items.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to think about stocking, and they're going to think about, for Benny, it's going to be like, playing hockey with dented cans back in the warehouse. Yeah. So that's if you work retail, they're interesting stories behind the scenes, definitely. I think I've always been interested in that idea of shopping being an emotional experience. And I think the first thing that occurs to me is the fact that I think this started in the Victorian era, like places like Macy's and different department stores in New York, they were kind of set up as these social spaces for women, like a place where women could go and socialize and be with one another, but also be, autonomous. And that would have been pretty rare in their lives. So developing cafes and places where women could go and just be by themselves or with other women. That's one thing that occurs to me. But I should also mention that, do you all have Big Lots in Michigan?
Yeah.
Okay. I worked at a Big Lots for a while when I was in college. Yeah. So, and I have, I don't want to idealize retail work. It's really hard.
Sure.
It's physically, difficult. So it's not an easy job, but in a lot of ways, I have such fond memories of working there. And just the things that I learned about customer service and about organization and cleaning and just, I learned a lot of valuable skills from that job. And I always just felt comfortable shopping there. And I know we don't have Big Lots in Kentucky, and a lot of the stores have closed. There are still some in Pennsylvania. I know they're still open. The ones in Kentucky eventually closed, unfortunately. But whenever I would go back home to Kentucky from New York, like on my vacations from school, my mom and I would go to Big Lots and we would shop together. And it was it was a ritual that we had whenever I went home to visit. And let's see, this was 21. She had cancer for a while. She was going through treatment. So I would go back home as much as I could when she was going through chemo and radiation just to help out. And I would go to Big Lots solo to shop and to get things for her. And it felt soothing, but also sad at the same time because I was by myself. But when she finished radiation and she was finally getting back on her feet, like we made that return trip to Big Lots and we actually took a selfie together, which she thinks she thinks that selfies are hilarious. Yeah. So that's not her generation. Right. But it's that happened at a Big Lots. And, that's such a lovely memory. Like that's how we celebrated the fact that she beat cancer. We went to Big Lots and we bought Peeps and and weird sodas. So there's an emotional part of that it feels very American, right? To have such an emotional attachment to an experience that centers around spending money.
Yes. Well, yes. I think I'll sweeten it. At least from the child and maybe even early teen perspective. So I don't miss having to go through, this became a very millennial podcast. I don't miss having to go through the Yellow Pages, and I don't miss having to channel surf, but I do kind of miss we just need the one thing or two things from that store, and we're going to have to get in the car, and we're going to have to drive 12 minutes, and then we're going to have to get there, and then we're going to have to walk in, and we're going to have to find it. Why do I miss that? I don't know. Separate of the purchase. So I don't know. And we don't have the memory of ordering the thing from Amazon and then waiting. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's because it's a communal experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
So it's something that we do that ties us to other people. You can actually touch the merchandise.
it's
You
all
could people on the floor.
it's all perspective. Like I've told my partner this several times. Like if we go somewhere and accidentally get lost and we don't get to where we were going, whatever, we were still in the car. We still,
Yeah.
it's still time. All
Yeah.
right, one more question. Yeah, bringing it back to like getting attached to the characters and then having them get messy and kind of what that experience is for you, but tying into the fact that your first two big amazing books have, and this is just some TED Talk soapbox I'm going to go on, the third person narration. And gosh darn it, I just don't feel like I see that too much anymore in modern novels. I feel like every book I pick up is first person. And yet you've talked about iterations where you've been inside their heads. So I guess want to hear more about what the experience is like doing the third person and living with your characters, and what does it feel like to get to the end of the journey with them?
Yeah. Yeah, it's with third person. I think for writers, there's an idea of flexibility and control with third person. It's that Mrs. Dalloway thing, right? That ability to flip from character to character, right? Yeah. So she does it so seamlessly and so beautifully. I need to pick that book up and read it again this summer. I just reminded myself. So I think that occurred to me just because I didn't want to be limited to spending time with just one character in this book. I wanted to spend time with all of them because I thought all of them were fascinating. Right. So I'm even sad that some of the peripheral characters like Luce and Jack, they have great stories to tell, I am sure. They deserve their own books, right? So that flexibility was something that really appealed to me. And especially with like Fred's a complicated guy.
Quite.
And yeah, okay. All right. So it's also interesting I just started having conversations with people about these characters. For so long they just lived in my head, and I talked about them maybe with my editor and a couple of other people, but now they're real. And I can talk about them and with other people and kind of trade ideas. But with Fred in particular, there were so many times in this book when I was so disappointed with him. I knew he was being a bully, and I knew he was being a bully because he was hurt. I didn't love him any less for it. I was still invested, and in fact, I'd have to argue that kind of investment is necessary. If you want a character to live and breathe on the page, you have to love them at least a little bit, even. And it's funny, it seems like the more you love a character, the worse their behavior can become. So, I mean, Mel.
Right, of course.
I love Mel. Yeah. So, and she's just filled with bad behavior, right? So that's something that I think I'll miss the Taylors just as much now that I'm not writing about them.
Sure. I can't help but indulge it because you brought up King Lear, but there is these elements of tragedy coming on into your books. Like, I mean, no spoilers, but there's the word tragic, if not at least a little bit, can be applied to some of the things that your characters do or that happens to them. And whatever, that's literature, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kayla Rae Whitaker, thank you so much for hanging out with us on this podcast to talk about returns and exchanges. The latest, it's, you know what? I'll just drop this podcast on the day that the book's out. Happy 19th.
Hey, thank you. All right. This was such a pleasure, Jeff. Thank you so much. I'm such a big fan of Ferndale Library. The Instagram is amazing, by the way.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
I'm a huge fan. Yeah. So this is wonderful. I hope I can make it up to Michigan at some point, and I'll pop in person.
Oh, please. Send us an email. Maybe we'll do an event or something.
That sounds great. Yeah.
That'd be wonderful. All right. Well, so glad. And say hi to Linus.
Yeah, Linus.
Okay.
He's been with us the entire time.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good day.
You
Bye.
too. That was Kayla Ray Whitaker, the author of Returns and Exchanges, sweeping novel about a family, and their family business is the department store. It's Baker Taylor's. It will take you way back to the dawn of the 80s and then bring you forward as this family with 4 siblings is developing, and they go through all their twists and turns. I assure you, Kayla is so good at character development, and you can do it. It's only 400 pages. We all love big novels. Kayla Ray Whitaker, we will link to her website in the show notes. The book's out now, and you can find it at your local bookstore or your local library. This has been A Little Too Quiet, the Ferndale Library Podcast. It's brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. And if you want to learn how you can support this podcast, go to ferndalefriends.org. You can also rate, review, and subscribe, or just tell your friends about this fun little podcast hosted in a library. We will be back next week with more. Thanks for listening.